Do you know what the trust fund recovery penalty is? My name is Andrew Bosserman, and I'm the founder and tax attorney at Boss Tax Law. So, the trust fund recovery penalty is a type of IRS penalty or assessment on individuals or owners of businesses that do not pay their payroll taxes. So this is one penalty you definitely want to avoid if you are the owner of a business or some other responsible party, like an officer, someone who writes checks, even a bookkeeper could be held responsible. So when companies employ individuals to work, employees in their business, they're required to pay payroll taxes over to the IRS. And this consists of withholding for federal taxes, also consists of what's known as FICA tax, that's Social Security, and there's also Medicare taxes. And the total taxes is split into two different parts. So there's an employee portion of FICA and Medicare, and then there's also the employer portion. The employee portion, really, the employer is collecting from the employee and holding it in trust and sending it to the IRS on the employee's behalf. So this is why it's called the trust fund recovery penalty, because if a business does not pay over federal withholding and the employee's portion of FICA and Medicare, the IRS considers that a very serious offense and can hold business owners or other responsible parties personally liable for taxes. So that's different than most business taxes, where generally only the entity is going to be liable for business taxes. But in this instance, with what's considered trust fund taxes, and again, that's federal tax withholding, that is the employee's portion of FICA and the employee's portion of Medicare tax, an owner, or what they call a responsible person, can be held personally liable, and that means the IRS actually makes an assessment against you personally for the amount of those unpaid taxes. So you definitely want to avoid that, especially if you're not an owner. So how does the IRS go about doing this, or how would you get into the situation? So first of all, those payroll trust fund taxes have to be unpaid. And also there has to be two things: responsibility and willfulness. So responsibility comes down to, did the individual the IRS is trying to assess the trust fund recovery penalty against, were they somehow responsible? And responsibility is defined pretty broad. It can be responsibility for paying the taxes, but it's also more broad. Did you have responsibility for hiring and firing in the business, or making major decisions, or decisions over what bills to pay and what bills not to pay? That is what the IRS looks at for responsibility. So it's generally pretty broad. Did you have the authority to, sign checks and make payments also? And then the element of willfulness. And generally when we think of willfulness in a legal context, it's, I'm intentionally not doing something. But it doesn't have to rise to that level with the IRS. Here, willfulness generally just means like it wasn't accidental, meaning, accidental would be I accidentally forgot to pay my payroll taxes, but I made it up, soon thereafter. No, in this instance, it means, hey, what normally happens is that a business owner, is short on funds. They can't make payroll, so they decide to pay their employees and not pay the IRS. That's definitely the wrong way to do it, and you don't want to do that if you're a business owner. That would be considered willfulness, and that would open you up to the trust fund recovery penalty. So if you're a responsible individual, payroll taxes weren't paid to the government, and it was willful, meaning it wasn't accidental, then the IRS can assess the trust fund recovery penalty against you. So this is just a basic overview of the trust fund recovery penalty, but if you think you might have this issue, or your business is not paying its payroll taxes, or you may have had one of these assessments against you, you definitely want to reach out to me or another tax professional, as this is a serious tax issue, and every situation is different. So oftentimes the IRS will start this assessment process with an interview of who they think they might assess the taxes against. So if you receive a letter from the IRS asking you for one of these interviews, definitely contact someone to help. So feel free to reach out with any questions, and enjoy learning about the trust fund recovery penalty.